All right, guys, welcome back. I have a fun video for you guys. Oh my God. I'm gonna do 5 things I like, 5 things I dislike, and 5 things that are just kind of quirky about the Aston Martin. I purchased this car a few months ago, so I feel like about this time is when I should be able to give you guys a fair review on the car. Now, I drive it like every day I can, which is mostly weekends, of course. So I've learned a few things about this car that are kind of weird, but there's quite a few that are like really enjoyable about this car. So stick around and let's see if you guys agree with what I'm saying or if you think I'm just a fool and a little over judgmental about the car. But let's get into it. So let's start with the 5 things I like about the car, because let's start the video off on a good note. So number 1 is obviously the styling of this car is absolutely gorgeous. Like nothing compares to the V8 Vantage or the V12 Vantage even. They both have these like really elegant lines. One of my favorites are where it starts from the side vent, goes all the way down to the rear fender. I love that. It's such a gorgeous little touch. And the hips, you can't tell me these hips are not some of those gorgeous hips you've ever seen. The way the window comes down into the duckbill, just everything about this car is absolutely gorgeous and like astonishing. I've always wanted one. I'm so glad I got it. And I'm not disappointed because everything about this, including the front end, which is the one thing that always captures people, is just phenomenal. So number 2, handling. So handling on this car is phenomenal. So I got the sports pack, which comes with nice wheels, beefed up sway bars and stuff like that. So it makes it a little bit better, of course, but the cars from factory are amazing. So it has a 49 front, 51 weight distribution. So it's a little bit more biased towards the rear, but that's okay because the transmission is actually in the rear of the car. So it has a torque tube that goes through the tunnel from the engine to the transmission, and it really just helps a ton. The drivetrain loss is the same as like a normal transmission, you know, for a rear-wheel drive vehicle, but this thing, just having the trans in the back made a world of difference. And the fact that the motor is kind of mid-front instead of just front, it's even better. So Daddy Doug, I think that you are a little incorrect about these cars as far as the attention these get. So Doug, if you don't know, owned a V8 Vantage and did a video on the practicality of daily driving it, and like in his video he did a little skit, and the skit was based on the attention that the car gets, and he claimed that it does not get a lot of attention. Well, today I went to a Cars and Coffee locally, and this car was just, there's always people staring at it, gawking at it, taking pictures of it. Mind you, it was mostly old men, but that doesn't take away from the fact that people love this car. I was driving back from Goldsboro one day. A couple came up, pulled up next to us, made me roll my window down. I was like, okay, what's going on? And they were like, what kind of car is that? That thing is absolutely gorgeous. Doug, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Please don't dislike my video, Doug. I still love you. It's just, this car is great. So a big one for me is the interior styling of this car. From the doors, how simple it is, to the gauge cluster. You cannot deny that this is one of the most beautiful gauge clusters you have ever seen. It's just phenomenal, absolutely. And then we have this beautiful waterfall that comes down. It's just, everything about this, they just did it all well. And the fact that the only clock in the car is an actual analog clock, dude, that's just perfect. Okay, so the last one, but far from the last, just the last of the list, is the sound of this car. Stock, it has a gorgeous sound, and honestly, I decatted it and it sounds amazing. All right, so I may have cheated you guys a little bit. I do have a tune from VAP that does give it all like the pops and burbles, or so it is a little bit noisy, but it doesn't take away from the fact that even without the pop, the car just sounds so good. Okay, now for the dreaded 5 things I dislike about the car. They're not really dislikes, they're just things that, to me, in my opinion, I'm not a big fan of in the car. The first one, we'll start off, just because we did touch the interior a little bit, is gonna be the interior waterfall and the fact that it kind of scuffs a little easier than it should. So this is the waterfall right here, is what they call it. It's a gorgeous piece, but it's hard to tell, but there's a bunch of little micro scuffs everywhere, all over it, even the clock. It's very normal for Astons to have this problem because it's a really soft plastic. It's gorgeous, but it's kind of soft, and unfortunately it causes it to crack and scratch easy, and it's kind of a bummer. So that's one thing. I wish they did it a little denser plastic, I guess. That's really my own complaint, but glass. Now, glass would have been sick. One big annoying thing about this car is the 007 comments. So my last name is Tugas, okay? So I get things like 00 Tugas. Please stop. Stop calling me 00 Tugas. It's not funny anymore. Okay, maybe a little bit. So a big one about these cars that is very frustrating is everyone thinks they know these cars. And I get things like, oh, I would have got a V12. Well, I would have too if I had another $40,000. And then I get things like, oh, what was it, 25 grand? I'm like, I wish it was 25 grand. People don't understand, which is okay. It's okay, you know, I mean, to not know, but don't act like you know. That's the number one thing I can't stand with anyone with anything. If you don't know, you don't know. Okay, so the 4.3 liter, as I said, was very underpowered, and that's a huge problem. Then the automatic is, you know, it's okay, but it's not great. And I feel like the manual is something you really want. I got a hardtop version because I enjoy driving the car. Of course, anything that's ragtop is not gonna be as supportive as a hardtop. And of course, I drive the car, so I really wanted something really stiff that felt a lot better. Soft tops don't have that nice rigidity of it on the roof. So that's a huge problem. But to some people, if you're into really easy driving cars that are not fast, but you want the elegance of an Aston, buy one. They're like 25 to 35 for an automatic versus manual hardtop for the first like generation of this V8 Vantage. So up until 2008, they made that, and it's completely worth it if that's something you're into. Now, if you really want to drive the car and you want a nice rowdy V8, get this one. So there are a few different things. So the later ones, like 2012 plus, they did a facelift again. So they changed a few things, like the bumper. So the bumper on this is just a smooth panel. If you get the later model, they come with like a cutout, and like the S models come with it carbon, and the same for the front bumper too. So the later ones come with like a splitter that's like built in, and this little section right there is carbon and stuff like that. If you're into that, you are gonna pay a little bit more of a premium for that car, but it's completely worth it if that's the styling you want. I wanted an S that was 2013. They wanted $65,000 for that. So to me, to spend $16,000 for 10 horsepower and 2 different bumpers, it's not really worth it to me. So one big complaint for me is coming from a car that was actually pretty fast, going to a heavy machine that only makes 420 horsepower stock was kind of a bummer. So this is the 4.7 liter. This is 2010. In the first models of this car, they came with a 4.3 liter that made 380 horsepower. Now, I think this is underpowered, so 380 horsepower would be just miserable, in my opinion. Especially for a car of this like stature, that it definitely should have came with a lot more horsepower. But this right here, it's not bad. It's good to get used to, but it definitely should have came with a little more. And that's one reason why I did get the VAP tune. That's one reason why I decatted it, as well as the noise, did the filters, and I'll be doing the header soon. Right now, with the VAP tune, they did a great job with this. It sounds so good. I do have the pops on, but even without that, it's so much more like alive, and the acceleration just feels better. So 10 out of 10, definitely get the tuner from them. But the car factory should have came with like 460 in my opinion. But everyone thinks that different power ranges are for them. So again, that's my opinion. That's not actual like fact of the car. And last but not least, for this car, I would have to say the way people perceive me now. So if you know me from before, I drove a 1993 Toyota MR2, and it was really built, really fun. I did everything. I'm a huge tuner fan. I love shit boxes. I love builds that are creative. That's what I love about cars from the 90s. You can get really creative with them. Stuff like this, it costs a little more. You really ruin the value of the car, but if you spend $4,000 or $5,000 for a car, who cares if you ruin it, in all honesty? So that to me, I feel like you can get a lot more of the styling out of it that you want.
Are you a YouTuber?
A little bit.
What's your YouTube channel?
So people perceive me as like some kind of like rich guy, but I paid 49 grand for this, which to some people is a lot of money, but I see people driving around in brand new Dodge trucks. I see people driving around in like crazy built CTSVs, but we're not looking at them like they're some rich guy. But this is not that expensive of a car. So it's just strange how people look at this car and they think that you're rich. And I get the name Aston Martin, but I guess people are just not educated enough in the car world to understand what these cars are worth. And honestly, I'm still a tuner at heart. I do all the mods on this car myself, so I don't know if I'm really one of those guys. So please don't perceive me like I'm just some kind of stuck-up prick, because I'm far from. If you talk to me about your 1992 Volvo 240 that you slide, I'm going to be completely more interested in that than I am the Gallardo down the road, even though I absolutely want a Gallardo. I love it, love it, love it. All right, guys, so we're gonna get down to the 5 things. We're gonna get down to the 5 things that are interesting about the car. We'll make them kind of quick because these are just things that are just weird in general. So let's start with my favorite weird one, which is what we're gonna call like the afterthought armrest. So this is the afterthought armrest. It slides around, it comes out, and yeah, it's kind of weird, so don't mind the mess, but take a cup holder and then you don't have a cup holder anymore. You can easily just put in this little square, rectangle, sorry. If I knew my shapes, that'd be great. I think it goes this way? No, it goes this way. Yeah, it goes this way. There we go. Boom, look at that. Now you can adjust it to put it where you want it, and you still have a cubby, but I think it's weird because now it has to be perfect. So I'm driving, if I'm cruising, I like my elbow right there, so I have to kind of move it over, and if I'm like just, you know, driving the car, I have my hand right there. So it's like not big enough for me, and that's kind of a problem. So question is, if I start making these as big as the whole slot using Aston Martin leather, would you guys be interested in purchasing them? Because I may just do it for me, but I think it'd be a good idea for everyone because it's kind of just a strange thing that's only like a third of the slot. The clutch pedal on this is number 2 of the weird things. So when you push the clutch in, you technically only need to go like this far, but the clutch has all this throw. That's useless. So when you shift, you're only gonna push in halfway to shift, which is weird because the clutch is at the very top of the pedal. So it's kind of weird and hard to get used to, and sometimes I get a little jerky. Yeah. Another super weird one is the location of the umbrella. If I know how to open my car, that'd be great. Say it's pouring out, you parked out with all your friends, and you need to get into the bar or the restaurant. You have to then climb in to the back of your car, unhook the 2 straps to get your umbrella out. Now listen, Aston, out of all the places to stick an umbrella, you had to put it there. You couldn't put it in the bottom, you had to put it up in there. Thank you, but what the heck. Another weird one is the parking sensors and how annoying they are. You put it in reverse and then you put it in first, the parking sensors are still on and they're still annoying and they're ugly, they're huge. So you can kind of see that's how big they are in the front. People always notice them, they ask me what they are all the time, and I'm not a big fan of how large they are, and especially in the rear, it's just like a weird, yeah, so those might have to go because no. And the last one of the day is this weird cubby battery location type stuff. It's just a quirk, as I said, these are impartial things where I don't hate them, I don't like them, I think they're odd, but they're not terrible. So, you move your seat forward, okay? Let me unhook this because, okay. I'm in here, you have to pull this up to access a little cubby, fuses, headlights, and your battery is over there. And then putting this back in, well, that was the easiest I've ever done this. It's usually a pain. It's a weird cubby, it's a weird location for that stuff. It's not the worst thing in the world. Charging your battery and stuff, it can be easier, could be worse, but again, it's just a weird thing. Okay, I have a bonus for you guys, the key. The key is kind of interesting. So it's a crystal key. This is the $2,000 key everyone talks about. It's kind of weird. It's just got the Aston logo on it and whatnot. But every time you carry it around, you have to use this little pouch that I have already almost lost the key out of the pouch. And yeah, it's kind of strange. To use the key, all you do is you slide it in, hold the clutch in, start the car. So it's kind of a cool thing, but carrying that key around can be an absolute nightmare and scary as hell, because not only is it expensive, but it's crystal, so it'll break easy. Oh, out of all the things you could make it out of, why could you just make like a normal key fob that you get in the car and start the car? I get it, it's cool, you put it in there, all that stuff, but you could have done something a little bit not so sketchy to carry around, but that does add to the experience of an Aston. At the end of the day, that is what you're purchasing with this car, is an experience. But I just never understood it until I purchased my first exotic car. So just in the past 30 minutes, I have so many people stop by, look at the car, ask me things, you know what I mean, talk to me about the car. I should make a better channel name because I don't know if people know how to spell Tugas. I should probably get cards made, make it a little easier. We'll figure this out. She wants ice cream. So the experience of driving this car is just, it's fun. It's an Aston. Like, I worked so hard for this, and everyone else who owns these does as well. These are like a working man's exotic car, and it's awesome. It's an absolutely gorgeous car. I would tell you any day of the week, if you can afford one, buy one. If you have the opportunity to drive one, drive one. If you can even sit shotgun in one of these just to enjoy the car, please do it. It's not like your Honda, it's not like your Toyota, it's its own thing. And it took me this long, which is ownership at 31, to understand what the experience is of owning one of these cars. So I hope that helps a little bit. I hope this video did help you if you're looking into buying an Aston, or if it's just something you've been interested in knowing a little bit about. I hope this video explains how amazing these cars are in general. Like, all over, it's a win. You know, there's other cars out there you could buy for $49,000, like faster cars like Camaros and stuff like that. But again, it's the experience of owning an Aston Martin that just, it's amazing. I'm so glad I had this opportunity to own one and drive one and beat on one and modify one. It's only been a few months and I have a long time to go, so it's been great. Thank you guys so much for your time. If you liked the video, please subscribe and like the video. That'd be great. If you made it this far, you're an absolute legend and it means the world to me. Comment below if you would argue anything I said, or if you have some other opinions on the car in general. If you think the body lines are ugly, or if you think like the power of this car is enough. So just leave your comments below. I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say. And as always, be cool, stay safe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Tell Doug he's wrong.
You're wrong.
Do you even know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Okay. Bye.